At 1 o'clock in the afternoon on February 24th, 2021, a 78-year-old rider from Apache Junction, Arizona, was heading north on the Oatman Highway when he reached a curve near milepost 9 that he did not come out of. A single motorcycle, no other vehicles, no witnesses to the moment itself, just a man thrown from his machine onto the rocks of the Black Mountains. Sheriff's deputies stabilized him at the roadside, and then came the detail that tells you everything about where this happened. He was flown to a hospital in Las Vegas, a different state, because out here that is where the nearest trauma care is, and he died there of his injuries. His name was Brent Gall, and his crash was not unusual. It was the standard model: one vehicle, one curve, one miscalculation, on a road that has been producing exactly this outcome for 100 years, so reliably that in the 1930s and 40s, the truckers, tow operators, and highway patrolmen who worked this stretch gave it a name that appears in no official document and every local memory. They called it Bloody 66. The Oatman Highway, the old alignment of Route 66 over Sitgreaves Pass between Kingman, Arizona and the Colorado River, has been killing drivers since before most of the roads in America existed, and the reasons why form one of the clearest case studies anywhere of how a road becomes lethal, stays lethal, and keeps collecting even after everyone involved knows better. That is what we are talking about today. Begin with the original sin, which is that this road was never designed for automobiles at all. It was a mining wagon road carved through the Black Mountains to serve the gold camps of Gold Road and Oatman, and when two prospectors struck ore worth $10 million in 1915, and Oatman boomed into a town of thousands, the wagon road boomed with it. When federal planners assembled Route 66 in 1926, they did not engineer a crossing of these mountains. They adopted the one that existed, hairpins, grades, and all, because the mines mattered and the road was there. What America inherited was the steepest sustained grade on the entire 2,400-mile length of Route 66, a climb from 2,268 feet at the mountain's western foot to Sitgreaves Pass at 3,550, and a descent into Oatman that drops 915 feet in 4 miles, threaded through a section that contains, by actual count, 191 curves in 8 miles. Do the math on that. A curve every 220 feet for 8 consecutive miles, on pavement with no shoulders, few guardrails then or now, and drop-offs that fall away into rock and creosote directly from the paint line. 20th century America then drove its entire transcontinental traffic over it, in vehicles that were catastrophically unequal to the task. Early Model T Fords had gravity-fed fuel systems, and on the steepest pitches gasoline could not flow uphill to the engine, so drivers turned around and climbed the grade in reverse, backing up a cliff road with a canyon behind them. Mechanical brakes, operated by rods and levers rather than hydraulics, faded on the long descent exactly when they were needed most. The local economy adapted to the carnage with frontier pragmatism. Residents of Oatman and Gold Road hired themselves out as pilots, driving terrified tourists' cars over the pass for a fee, while wrecker operators stationed themselves along the grade and made steady livings hauling out the stalled, the burned out, and the crashed. In the 1930s, the road's clientele became the Dust Bowl migration, families in overloaded trucks with everything they owned roped to the frames, crossing the worst grade of their entire 2,000-mile journey at its very end, brakes smoking, radiators boiling, California in sight across the river. Steinbeck put this crossing in the Grapes of Wrath because the crossing was already legendary. Some of those families made it on courage. The gully below more than one curve collected the ones who didn't. The state of Arizona understood precisely what it had, and in 1952 it acted. Route 66 had been classified as strategically vital, and a mountain crossing where trucks regularly left the pavement was intolerable. So crews built a 45-mile bypass through level ground at Yucca in just 2 years, the fastest major highway project in state history to that point. And on September 17, 1952, traffic left the Black Mountains forever. Here is the pivot though. The reason this story doesn't end in 1952. Bypassing a deadly road does not disarm it. It just changes who dies on it. The towns collapsed, Gold Road emptied, Cool Springs burned, Oatman dwindled to a curiosity kept alive by the wild burros descended from the miners' abandoned pack animals, and the road itself sat there, unchanged, uncorrected, exactly as dangerous as the day the last through truck crossed it, waiting for a new customer base. Route 66 nostalgia supplied one. Beginning in the 1980s and swelling every decade since, the Oatman Highway became a pilgrimage, one of the longest intact stretches of original 66 anywhere, and its new traffic is, if anything, worse matched to the road than the Model Ts were. Motorcyclists come for the 191 curves, and the curves are genuinely magnificent, and a sport bike carrying 20 miles per hour too much confidence into a decreasing radius hairpin with no guardrail has exactly one destination. Rental RVs and European tourists in unfamiliar cars come for the boroughs and the ghost town, crawling at 15 miles an hour around blind corners where the riders are arriving at 50, and that speed differential, the fast and the slow sharing blind geometry, is one of the deadliest combinations traffic engineering knows. The boroughs themselves stand in the roadway, 700 pounds of federally protected animal around any given bend, at dusk nearly invisible. Summer pavement temperatures on the lower desert sections are brutal enough to degrade tires and judgment together. And the remoteness that killed travelers in 1935 kills them the same way now. No cell coverage through much of the mountains, no services, and a helicopter flight to Las Vegas, standing between any serious injury and an operating room, which is why the Bureau of Land Management, which designates the route a backcountry byway, flatly prohibits vehicles over 40 feet and warns that this is not a road for the unprepared. The modern casualty file reads like the old one with new machines. The Apache Junction rider at milepost 9. A Canadian motorcyclist killed near Oatman, excessive speed suspected. Riders down in the hairpins below the pass. Cars off the edge on the Gold Hill grade. Injuries ferried out by air ambulance at intervals regular enough that the sheriff's press releases have a template. None of it makes national news, because the Oatman Highway's signature, like that of every road in this series, is the single vehicle crash, no villain, no pileup, just a driver, a curve, and gravity settling their brief disagreement. What stays with me is that this road has now been killing people in two entirely different eras for two entirely different reasons, and the road itself never changed. From 1926 to 1952, it killed people who had no choice. Migrants and truckers forced over the only crossing there was. Victims of necessity. Since then, it has killed people who chose it. Riders and travelers drawn by beauty and history. Volunteers. The wagon road geometry underneath is identical. Only the reason for being on it changed, and the mountain accepts both currencies. So if you go, and you should go, because this is one of the last places in America where you can drive the 1920s exactly as they were laid down, go as if the road's reputation were earned, because it is. Check your brakes in Kingman and use your gears on the descent into Oatman rather than riding the pedal down 915 feet of hairpins. Assume a burro, a stalled RV, or a stopped photographer around every one of the 191 blind curves, because on any given day, one of those assumptions will be correct. Ride or drive the pass in the morning, sober, rested, and unhurried. Stop at the crest of Sitgreaves where the wreckers used to wait, and look down at the switchbacks stacked below you, the same view the Dust Bowl families saw with their brakes smoking and their children in the truck bed. It is one of the great sights on the old Mother Road. It has also been the last sight often enough to have a nickname. The gold gave out, the highway moved, the towns emptied, the tourists came, and through all of it the Black Mountains have held their road exactly where they always held it, on a narrow ledge between the rock and the air, keeping the oldest arrangement in this desert. The curves are free, the view is free, and the margin for error was never included. Not in 1926, not in 1952, not on a February afternoon at milepost 9, not today.